Hey everyone, welcome to the 20s podcast. This is a podcast for the girlies in their 20s who are seeking a life lived to the fullest. And I'm Liv.
And I'm Meg.
We're your hosts of the podcast, and today we're talking about girl bossing.
Mm-hmm.
We have all kinds of conversations, all kinds of hot takes, all kinds of neutral ground.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about it because we think it's something that needs to be talked about.
Yeah, there's a big culture shift, I feel like, around girl bossing, and there's so many sides, and it can swing so hard both ways. And so we just want to talk about it.
That's today's episode.
Mm-hmm.
But before we dive on in, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. It's a full week last week, and it was Easter, so Nathan and I were home. Happy Easter, guys.
Christ is
What an awesome weekend. It is so fun to celebrate and just slow down and think about it.
Mm-hmm. Important for sure.
Yes. But we were home visiting our families. We also had our final walkthrough for our wedding venue. And so that was very, very fun and sweet to just get to see it and see it. We saw it in the winter, so everything was super dead, and it's in a garden. And so seeing it with green grass and little buds of flowers everywhere was so sweet.
I love the buds right now.
The buds are so
Every time
cute.
I see buds on trees, I'm like, thank you, Jesus. We have new life.
New life is
Winter
coming.
doesn't last forever.
No.
I could just stare at the buds and sob.
I know. And just the green grass. I'm like, oh my goodness, we have not seen color in so long.
Color, man.
Because it's different seeing color in nature versus just color in our homes and that sort of thing.
It's
so
nature's so pretty.
it is. I'm
I'm so excited for
Obsessed
your
with the
wedding's gonna be
grass.
so pretty.
Yeah, I'm very excited. So it was fun to get to go there again and now have more of a vision for our day. So kind of being able to just walk through the space. So very, very excited and helped us make a lot of the last decisions we had left to make. So feeling
Slay.
good about that.
Wedding
But
slay.
Wedding slay. How are you doing, Liv?
Pretty good. I just got my period a half hour ago.
Yup.
Got my heating pad on. I'm wrapped up in my blankie. And
Just gotta be that way.
I stepped out of a work meeting halfway through. Actually, that's a great example of what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, that's actually true.
Halfway through my work meeting, I did an Irish goodbye. I realized I'm not the most important person in this room, and I am going to leave. And so I left, and now we're here. I'm doing well for the most part. Had, 2 days before my period, you start to just like really process your entire life. So I've been doing
Everything bubbles to
highs
the
and lows.
surface.
I don't even need to explain myself to you guys.
You
So,
get it.
I guess a high that we should talk about is on Friday, our little 20s team went and
Wait, this is
toured
exciting.
an event space for our big first 20s event this summer. And ladies, this event is going to be the best event of the summer, minus Meg's wedding.
I'll take it. That's fair.
And and this event is open to the public.
It is. My wedding is not.
I mean, right, you could crash. Honestly, if any of you guys crash the wedding at the dance, I will pay mad respect to you.
I'll welcome you to the dance.
Meg can't say that, but I don't know. I love a good wedding crasher. To be honest, if anyone wants to crash my wedding, if you listen to this podcast consistently and you're not going to wreak havoc, you are welcome to crash my wedding. That's how I feel. No, have you guys crashed a wedding before? I have. At the age of like 12, we were in Colorado and we were staying at a hotel and we were with our really close family friends, and they are just like super fun people. And my family, like my mom and dad, would never say, hey, let's go crash a wedding. That's not how Dean and Rhonda roll. Rightfully, I respect that. But we were with our fun family friends and they were like, we are crashing this wedding. Ripped a few dances on the dance floor. So I don't know. I've lived on the edge in that way, and I love it.
That's safe, though. Crashing during the dance is safe.
Yeah, obviously there's not you can't crash during the meal. There's not enough food.
There's not enough
But if you're going to bring good vibes and get down on the dance floor, you're welcome to come.
That's fair.
Anyways, but back to the Pilates event.
Yeah.
So it's a Pilates event. There's so much more to it, but it's going to be here in La Crosse. The date is confirmed for June 28th. Mark it in your calendar. Save the date. It's going to be in the morning. And I'm telling you guys, we are going to make this event the best event.
It's going to be so fun.
So if you're wanting to meet new people, if you're just wanting like a good core memory this summer, I'm telling you, it's going to be a core memory. So lacrosse girlies are welcome. And if you want to travel, find some girls to hop in the car with you. This will be so worth it for you to just, I know I would travel a little bit of distance to come to this. So more details coming soon because it's going to be so fun.
Yep. But we secured the date, secured the venue, and now we can roll with the final details of it all.
Yeah.
So we're so excited.
Yeah, super excited.
It's going to be so fun.
So I think that's, update. Yeah. There's honestly so many updates. I don't even want to talk about them, though.
That's fair. We can just
I just I'm too tired to share my life right now. I'm just not feeling it today.
That's okay. There's permission for that.
Let's dive into girl bossing.
Bossing.
I feel like we'd have a girl boss story because I feel like our post-grad, or I guess even in college, people have called us girl bosses all the time, which I'm not denying that we're not girl bosses, but at the same, I don't know. I feel like people probably look to us that even speak into this topic because we have a very outward job, business job, where we've started the businesses and we've started the things and we show up and we show ourselves online. And so, yes, some people think we're girl bosses. Are we girl bosses? This is what I would say. Yes, I think we are girl bosses. But I'm not obsessed with the title of girl boss. I don't hate it. I'm not oh my gosh, I hate it. I honestly call people girl boss all the time. But I also don't love it too because I think it's so much of an identity thing. And I love I love business. I love executing business. I have big work dreams. But I don't know why. I'm not obsessed with how society has shaped the girl boss title, I guess.
Because how would you define girl boss from a societal
standard?
Point? Yeah, because I feel like when we hear the word girl boss, there's things running through our heads that we're thinking of that we're I don't know if I want to be associated with that. And so
I mean, I think how society sees girl boss and how I perceive girl boss is it's women who are doing things, who are moving and shaking and forerunning. They're hustling, they're grinding, they're getting it done. And there's a lot of things about that I think is very admirable and really good. And I hope that I am. I hope people see me as a hard worker and they see that I am using my gifts to the best of my ability to bring life to the world. I think the connotation of girl boss that I don't like is the aggressiveness that girl boss can have. Sometimes I feel like a girl boss can be a very aggressive thing. And that's, I know I want to be viewed as strong. I want to be viewed as confident and secure, but I do not want to be an aggressive girl boss.
That totally makes sense.
How about you?
I think similarly. I don't know if I have any more additional thoughts off of it. And I think it can swing the direction too of I don't need men. I hate men.
I don't need men.
And just trying to dominate over men too and have it just kind of be the purpose and the why behind girl bossing is a jab at men. And so I don't love that.
To be honest, I don't love that at all. That makes me sad. Why? Because all people are created equal. The Lord made men and he made women, and he said both are my creation, and I love them both. And I don't either domineering over the other. It's really, really icky vibes for sure. But I think we need to talk about so obviously for us, we've started a few businesses and have built careers for ourselves off of our businesses and off of our work. And so we obviously do business, and that's what we do. And a lot of people call us girl boss, but I think what we need to talk about today is just where did girl bossing come from? How has society gotten here? Is this something we should be striving for? Is this something that's healthy? Is this something that, I don't know. I think these are all the questions we're just wanting to dive into today because we think that it's an important conversation because just an important one. And women working is a really awesome conversation that I don't think people talk about enough in a very like holistic way.
I would agree.
So Meg, where did girl bossing come from, low key? Like, how did we get here?
Well, I think there's just been a huge culture shift in the last 50 years.
Yeah, when
maybe?
did when did the Industrial Revolution happen? When did women
I probably should have done some research on
yeah,
this.
low key, we're not coming to the table as history people, but
I feel like probably in like the 60s or 70s, maybe the 80s.
I have no idea. Honestly, we maybe shouldn't even speak into this, the history.
Well, I think you saw the shift of like women working in like business places more so is what I like am thinking of. 1760 and 1840.
Big history,
1840?
girls.
Oh, wait, what? Is the Industrial Revolution?
There's a first one and there's a second one.
Okay, so we know that there's a lot that has changed in culture. Period. So history is important.
We are not historians.
This is embarrassing. Basically, something I think we want to talk about is there's every generation, there's just been shifts.
Yeah.
So like we think about like at the beginning of times, everyone was working, like everyone needed to contribute to the family. Just to make life happen, to provide, to make the household run. And then obviously like, especially we're just speaking about America here because that's our lens of living and who we're talking to. Eventually there was a shift that women didn't need to work as much anymore and then came to the home and they were fully in the home because the men were able to work. This must have been post-war time. Honestly, I should just stop speaking into all things history. This is really bad.
No, I think the general idea of it is correct.
Yes. So, the women didn't have to work. They were able to work at home and just watch children and bake food and clean the house. And that's where we got to be like the cooking, cleaning, raising children women. And now the past, years, back to our history, what we have seen is just, once again, major cultural shifts where women now have to work, especially they have to work if they are not married and they don't have anyone providing for them. So like back in the good old days, we know that there were fathers and fathers provided for their daughters. And then when they got married, then there was a shift of care from the father to the daughter, or from the father to the new son-in-law. And that was oftentimes why women didn't have to make money because...
And a lot of times people got married right out of high school between like 18 and 20. So there wasn't even this
and
like
I think
transition.
What's the average age?
I want to say it's like 28.
I think it's 28.
So there's this entire decade now of women having to sustain themselves completely, which is where I think some of this has like come in.
And that's like must sustain themselves, where a lot of women in our society, there's a lot of homes that need both parents working and there's like there's no choice, like you have to work.
A necessity.
And so I think with that, that's a huge part of like even how we view working in general. Is like we need to look at like our need and we need to look at society on how do we steward what we've been given and doing that well. And so I think it's important to just really recognize what society is today, because there's for some reason like such a tension and such a battle that happens. Some people get so aggressive about these conversations, I think, and we're not like looking at holistically like how does society run. I don't know. Does that even make sense? We honestly should stop talking about the history and just start talking about our experience,
because I think that's like we can see that's where it came from, but then I feel like now we can live in the tension of what's right, what's wrong. Should I be girl bossing? Should I just be staying at home? And it feels like a lot of shame can come in on either side of it, or confusion of like what is right and what is wrong, because culture has shifted so much.
And I think we sense we sense the battle right now. Like there's a lot of big opinions on it,
and you see it on social media too,
super annoying,
because I think you see extremes on both sides of like hardcore girl bossing hustle culture, but then you see like
the trad wife
that side of things too, like just a complete swing of the pendulum both
And the
ways.
shaming of both is the thing that hurts my heart the most, because I personally, and I'm going to just hit my personal hot take right off the bat, I think the hardcore extremes where we're shaming the other side is really wrong, but I don't think like either party in itself is wrong. Like I don't think it's wrong for women to be working, and I don't think it's wrong for women to obviously be at home and not working. And so why are people so mean, Meg?
I don't know. People get so nasty.
It's like,
and it's like,
what
women,
side's worse?
I don't even think you could say,
Oh,
because
no,
they're both nasty.
I don't think so either, but I just think it just makes me sad.
It is sad. And it's like, girlies,
have some empathy for each other.
Yeah.
We are women.
we are women. We're all doing
just
our
girls.
best. And some people don't have a choice either way. And again,
Yeah.
like, are just doing what's best for them and best for their families.
We
And
can lack so much empathy and care
Mm-hmm.
and compassion. So we know that there's a lot of shame, and we know that there's a lot of just judgment, but I think we can take that, like those strong opinions, and actually have some good conversations to help guide and lead us what we should be doing with our life. And so I think the thing that I always go back to is everyone needs to be viewing life through stewardship. And I feel like this is something we talk about a lot. And the reason why I hold stewardship to such a high value in life, potentially even like one of my top values, is because, and I think I've talked about this on the podcast, in the Bible, it talks about how Christians, people who believe and have faith in Jesus, we will have a final judgment, but our judgment is going to be not like, are you going to heaven or are you not going to heaven? Like, if you believe in Jesus and you have faith in him and you've surrendered your life to the Lord, you are saved. But how we're going to be judged someday is based off how we steward what we've been given. And the things that we have to steward are our gifts and the things that God has given us. So it's like the things we're good at, the resources he's given us, the money he's given us, the homes, the people, the relationships, like all these things are good gifts from God. And someday he's going to say, how did you steward the things that I gave you? And then based off that, he's going to give us eternal rewards, which is a really big deal. And if you've not heard of this, I didn't hear about this. I was a Christian my whole life, and I did not know about this until approximately a few years ago. So I would super just recommend a little Google search about this, or dive into your Bibles, or I would recommend both, because I know for me, I sometimes need some Google to guide me in my Bible searching. But ultimately, everything comes down to stewardship. And so I think when it comes to girl bossing and when it comes to working or not working, I think we have to be asking ourselves, how can I be a good steward of my life? And I think that needs to be the guiding force of what we do. For instance, I'll kind of share a little bit about how I'm trying to steward my life and my gifts right now to the best of my ability. So I'm 26 years old. I am single in the sense of that I'm not married. I'm dating, but I'm not married. And I know I have to work because I need to provide for myself, because I'm the only person who's providing for myself. And so with that, I know I need to work, and I know that some of my like strongest gifts that people have called out is I'm a leader, I'm very creative, I'm very entrepreneurial, I'm really good with people, I have like God's given me a ton of vision for just stewarding my community and community of people and my actual community. And so I kind of put all my assets down on the table and I say, God, this is everything you've given me. I know that I need to work, and I know that I have things that I can provide and be light to the world with. What do I do that I'm able to use all those gifts and steward them the best that I possibly can? And then from there, that's how I've been able to like build, what should I be doing for a career? What should I be doing with my time? What should my days look like? And that like really helps ground me in what I should be doing. And for me, that kind of is a lot of like girl boss things. Like I am a leader, and I love business, and I love learning about it, and I love like doing all those things. And yes, it could be perceived as a girl boss, but I'm just trying to be my goal isn't to be a girl boss. My goal is to just be obedient to what God has given me.
That's good.
And so I think we need to like really be discerning everything, I guess.
Yeah. Because
in that
you
way.
knowing all of those things about yourself and your gifts and your strengths and what your needs are in this season of life definitely allows you to make decisions very like clearly and confidently and also protect your time too, so you know what to say yes to and you also know what to say no to.
Yeah.
Which I think that can be a hard part when if it's just like girl bossing or success that's driving you is
Yeah.
it's easy to say yes to every single thing
That's good.
and you don't know what to say no to because there isn't something more that's driving your decisions. And so
that's
I
good.
think that I've seen that help protect your schedule and just protect your capacity so that you're able to do everything well and you're not just like stretched way too thin
Right.
because you're able to say yes and no.
Yeah, and you have something that just anchors you in truth, like, which I think is something we can talk about later. But
Yeah.
but then, like, for instance, let's say I'll give like an absolute like swing in the other direction.
Yeah.
There's a lot of in between ground that we could also get into. But then you have someone who, you know, she is married and she has children and the Lord is providing for the family in abundant ways, like through her husband, and her husband like can work and loves working and feels called to working. And this woman like loves nurturing and like wants to like pour out into their children and like has that desire. Like it's also important for her to be obedient to that and to like steward what God's given her in that way. And then there's the neutral ground of that, of like, maybe you are a wife and maybe you have children and maybe you have desires and like giftings like mine and you also have children. And I think that's where it gets, you really have to be rooting yourself and just being so submitted to like the Lord in that of what do you do? Because there isn't necessarily this right or wrong on the surface. It's really just like how the Lord guides you and your family, I guess.
Yeah, and having to continue to lean into that because it isn't like a one-time decision that you're making of like, I'm going to work like this for every single season of life. And I could imagine there being multiple different seasons of motherhood even where maybe you do have dreams and desires to work, but you feel like God is calling you to lay those down for a few years to be with your kids and then pursue them. Or maybe it is a balance. And so I think it honestly just comes back to prayer and seeking the Lord for his guidance over how to best steward your gifts and the season that you're in because it's going to continue to change.
Totally. And then there's moms who want to be moms and want to be at home and maybe don't have a husband or a present father or maybe has a great husband, but they also need to provide financially to steward their children well. There's honestly so many different things, but ultimately it comes down to just like that stewardship, that guiding thing of like, how do I steward what I've been given to the best of my abilities? Like with the Lord, because there's just such diversity, like you said, there's so much change, but
and there's not like a formula to it either, and I think that's where we have to be so kind and gentle to each other too in it, because it's just not going to look the same for all of us.
And every woman is so different. God has made everybody fearfully, wonderfully, uniquely. And I get so sad when we just shove women into a mold of like, this is what it looks like to be female, when there are things that are inherently female. Like we know that to be true about just the way we've been created. Like totally, yes. Like women are nurturing. They're givers of life. They literally, their whole job is to be life to the world, whether that be through childbearing or through other like means. But every female is so different. And I get really sad when, honestly, I'm gonna speak into one. I get really sad when like trad wife culture shames women who maybe aren't like as nurturing or who maybe are like, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't talk into this, but I feel like the church sometimes can be very shameful of women who are, like I just think of women who maybe aren't like just like that traditional Christian woman and may have like different giftings, and I think it can cause a lot of confusion to women and it can make them feel as if there's something wrong with them, when that could be something that God literally created within inside them. And I think it pushes a lot of women away from the church, and I think it confuses the heck out of people. And I think that's why a lot of people get really angry at like some of those movements.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think the church too has probably gotten a lot of those ideas from just culture in general.
Yeah, not
like
from the
it's just
Bible.
like the norm, because you read Proverbs 31, which is like the most classic passage about a woman, and this is like the most like epic girl boss woman there is. Like, she's nurturing her family, she's providing for her family, she's doing things in the community, she's being wise and resourceful, and just like stewarding her life in the way that she needs to like be a blessing to her family and to her community. And so I feel like every time I read that, I'm like, oh, this looks so different than even like the culture that can get projected onto what a woman should be.
Totally.
And so
that's so good. We're just givers of life. And I think that can look like, that's like honestly like one of the most like biblical characteristics of being woman is like we're givers of life. And that can apply to so many areas of life and look so diverse for all women. And so it is interesting how much shame there is, though, like around some of these conversations for so many people, and how much women shame other women. I honestly think it comes from, a lot of times it comes from
insecurity.
Yeah. And I was just going to say from each other. Like, I think it's a lot of women shaming women.
Oh.
Like, more than anything else.
That makes sense.
But.
Yeah. And I think, like, in that, too, you have to, like, know your why behind what you're doing. Besides just, like, what are my gifts and what are my talents? But, like, why am I actually doing what I'm doing?
That's good.
And, like, why am I working, or why am I staying home?
Yeah.
Because if it's not rooted in like good ambition or good motives, that's where we go wrong as well. Because you can do both in either direction with like the wrong heart and the wrong why. And then I think that is what can make your heart like icky sometimes, where you're then being judgmental or critical of other people.
Or yourself.
Yeah. And so I feel like for us, Liv, we are in a season of life where we are working full time, and that is our season and what we're doing. And so I know conversations we've had is, how do we still remain feminine in the workplace, especially some of the jobs that we're doing are very like masculine environment, with it being construction and we're working with all men. And so what are some ways you feel like you're still able to be true to yourself and how God has created you as a female, even though you're in the workplace?
Yeah, that's good. I feel like something that comes to mind, and I should have this verse memorized, but it's the 2 Timothy verse of, don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for them in speech and conduct and purity.
Faith and love.
And I feel like that's definitely a guiding verse in my life of, I really try to just be grounded in who I am and like try not to be anybody other than what I've been created to be. So I don't try to act older than I am. I don't try to act like more like a man because I'm in masculine roles. I just try to be really rooted in the fact that I am Liv, and I am a 26-year-old female, and God has called me to this job, and that is how I'm supposed to show up, because there's something for me to provide in the season of life that I'm in. And so, yeah, we work on a construction project right now, and we have a variety of roles, but we do a lot of, I guess, management of contractors. So we talk to a lot of contractors, we get updates from them, we check in on their progress, we help make decisions for them. And one of the ways that I like to be feminine in that role is just connecting with them and like nurturing the relationships to the best of my abilities. And so I like to check in on how they're doing, and I like to, and just in life in general, I like to, like when I don't know what I'm doing, which is frequently, I don't try to like beef myself up and like pretend that I know what I'm doing. I try to like be really strategic and think smarter and like use my resources. Like I try to be resourceful. So I oftentimes ask them, what do you think is the best thing that I should do? And oftentimes I do have, even when I have an opinion that I do know to be true, I'll still ask them that question because I want to be resourceful. And even though I have a formulated opinion based off of my experience and based off of what I believe is best, I'm going to be resourceful and ask as many people as possible to speak into the decision that has to be made. And so I think that's some of the ways I'm feminine is I nurture, I connect, I'm resourceful. I sometimes I put the ball in their court, even though I'm the one who's calling, or like we're the ones who are calling the shot. I'll put the ball in their court so that they feel empowered in what they're doing. And so, and they obviously should. They're teammates, and I need them, and I communicate my need for them. I think what happens is when we don't communicate our need for the teammates and the people around us, that's when you start to have these like domineering
power dynamics.
And I try to avoid that at all costs, because I think good leaders should try to build their little kingdoms and their structures. And so, and still at the same time, like I need to do what God's called me to do, and that's to make decisions and to keep the ball rolling and get the job done. So that's one of the ways. I also like to wear dresses. For me, this is really stupid but practical. I like to feel like a girl. So it's hard in the summer or in the winter, guys, in Wisconsin.
When you're just wearing jeans and
I have
hoodies every day.
I have my baggy jeans on and my hoodie on every day. And my boyfriend and I could literally share a closet in the winter because that's what I'm working with.
Yep.
But as soon as it starts to warm up, I just like to feel like a girl because I'm doing a lot of masculine things. So even me just feeling feminine and wearing clothes that make me feel feminine, I feel much more balanced and grounded. Where I don't know, it's kind of like you have these uniforms in life, and when you put it on, it's like kind of grounds you in what your job is. And I know as like a young female who's in work, I need to ground myself in the fact that I'm a young woman and I'm not like, I don't need to be anything other than that.
Yeah.
Kind of silly, but
no, it's so good.
Kind of practical for me, at least. So.
It is, yeah. I think when you feel like yourself, it's easier to do your job as well.
Clothing's powerful.
It is.
We could go on and on about this. This is a whole other conversation, but what you put on is like communicating to yourself who you are and what your role is, and to others. I don't know. That's a whole thing. But yeah, I guess it's really feminine to just be yourself and to be who you've been created to be. So we just try to do that.
Yeah.
And so, and I feel like you do that really well in work too, where you just like are unapologetically yourself in the work that you're in, and you show up with your best gifts and your best talents to the table and steward them to the best of your ability. Like that's all we really can do.
Yeah. No, it's so true.
But
that's really good. That's so.
I honestly feel bad for men sometimes.
Why?
I feel bad for men because they do have such a pressure, I feel like, a societal pressure to know every answer and to
be competent and everything.
And I honestly feel like I have a safety net as a woman in work because I can like use my femininity as a tool of, hey, you know what? I don't know. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to provide an incredible answer, but it gives me buffer. And I think I actually get respect sometimes when I say I don't know, but I don't know if society always respects men when they say that they don't have an answer. And so I think sometimes they have to overcompensate then. And that's how a lot of really good men fall. Is that bad for me to say? No. I don't think it's fine. I don't think so. Fine. I'm still, guys, we're only on podcast number like 8 or 9. I just don't even know what I can share, what I not share. But I just like feel for men where I think there's just a lot of pressure to be right all the time. At least I sense that from what I perceive.
I would agree.
So low-key being a woman, there's just like a lot of power. Even women are powerful. We have so much superpower. We just have to harness it, ladies. We just got to identify and we got to harness what we got because we add so much value to the workplace. Where I'd like to say that us being on the team that we are is like That's a good thing. We add a lot of good balance.
I would agree.
Some
It
good
definitely-
diversity.
It balances everybody out, and I think we feel like buffers in a lot of meetings and conversations between multiple men.
Yes.
So we've learned a lot on this job.
Guys, we could go into this job forever, but
Yeah.
another
It's been good.
episode.
Okay.
All right.
I feel like with this whole conversation of girl bossing and the hustle culture and that sort of thing, a huge part of it that we've also, one, walked through, also have watched a lot of people walk through and know people experience is just burnout.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about burnout.
Burnout.
And we'll be the first to say, have we hit burnout before?
Yes.
Am I dancing with it right now? 100%. So it's not from a place of arrival. This is once again us in the process of it. And honestly, it's once again, let's just talk about our society and our culture. America is built on a culture that basically, if you are not actively fighting against the culture, you probably will burn out, which is really hard. And I don't necessarily 100% know the solution to it. I know some solutions that are biblical and good, but
some of it's just hard because of how high of a value there is on productivity.
Yes.
And efficiency and
success
and how much time of your day that takes to do those things.
Yeah. And I don't think we need to go on and on about how America is different than most other countries in the world, but we're just going to talk about this from the lens of that, because America is very different. And so some days I wish I was living in, one of the Europe, or Mexico. There's so many incredible cultures that prioritize siestas and rest and family and connection, relationship,
community.
But I think if you guys haven't listened or read anything from John Mark Comer, I think that was he was a teacher that really led us in a lot of our recognition of, we're definitely on a track of hustle and burning out. One of the things that I think we can do to combat stress and rest, and I think that I do an okay job at it, but this is something I really want to grow in the next year or two, is in the Bible, it talks about Sabbathing, which it was part of the culture, and also the greatest example of it is even God creating the earth in 7 days, and on the seventh day he didn't need to rest, but he rested. And it was an example for all of us on just the need for surrendering to God and putting down our work and giving God a day. He's given us everything, and we can give him a day of ourselves, our productivity. It's an act of surrender. And so that's important, otherwise you're gonna burn out.
And I feel like we try to do that right now, but it isn't quite set up maybe how we both would want it to. But I think we're on the right trajectory for making that happen. But
a woman who is exhausted and isn't overflowing with life has kind of, I want to be careful with how I say it. It's okay to be exhausted, but our number one goal in life is to be givers of life. And if you're not overflowing with life, then it's at least for me, that's how I know, can I come to the table and can I be light to a room? Can I, or whatever that looks like for you. But if I can't do that, then the chances are I am wrestling with burnout, and I probably need to rest. And so it's important. It's very essential to us women to rest. And I think we got to talk about this because this morning I was researching more about my period, okay? We've been on a hormonal journey for the past few years, learning about our cycles, all the things. I think a lot of women have been. But women are different than men because we have a 28 or 26 to 31, 32 day hormonal cycle. And men have a 24-hour circadian rhythm. Or maybe they have circadian, Fradian.
Their hormones, it's a 24-hour cycle.
It's a 24-hour cycle.
Is multiple weeks.
And with that, I think there's something that we really need to lean into with our cycles of our just physical need for rest that God literally created inside of us. And this weekend, I was so tired. And I just started a new career. I'm now a real estate agent. And so that means that my rest looks different. So I actually had to work both days this weekend because that's my job. But it was difficult because my body, the 2 days leading up to my period, was literally so tired. Like, it was screaming at me of like, you need to sleep. Like, literally all I could think about all day yesterday was the fact that I was tired. And it's definitely something I know I'm struggling with, is like, how do I lean into just my cycle, even though I have a job that demands of me to sometimes work even when I'm exhausted. And so I don't know the full answer of how to do that, but I think it's something that I want to be like conscious of and try to like lean into the best that I can.
You can. Yeah, for sure.
And I think there's some practicals that I need to be better with, of just like literally cutting any of the extra things where
during that time.
I said yes to things that I probably shouldn't have said yes to that were outside of work. And it made me really tired.
Yeah, still learning and growing through what we need. And so,
but it's important to not be like men. Like, men literally have a 24-hour cycle. We don't need
they can just operate different.
Our productivity, our even like in the girl boss era, like our time blocks, our weekly schedules should look different than men. And hot take, I feel like we should be learning about productivity from women or men who know about the women's cycle. Like, it's like, you can't time block your day exactly the same every single day as a female, because like your hormones probably won't allow you to.
Or they might for a while, and then you just mess up your entire body.
Yeah.
With adrenal fatigue and it can. I feel like there is just such a like downside to burnout and stress and the hustle culture is if you're not taking care of yourself and resting in it, you actually will just make yourself really, really sick.
And that's not okay.
No.
It's like, that shouldn't be glorified. Like, women who are killing themselves, maybe that's like intense to say, but like it's just you're just gonna contract illness and autoimmune and crap, and your body's literally gonna
freak out
because you're grinding yourself into a So it's like, I think that's something I know I want to learn more about, is how do I flow better within my cycle and like schedule my work in a way that is optimizing my skill set and not working against it.
No, for sure. I think something I wanted to touch on in terms of burnout is, at least for me, when I've experienced it, is I feel like I've gotten on the hamster wheel and I can't get off, is usually when burnout hits. Because I think I've had seasons of life where I have really full schedules and it's just for a season and I'm not burning out. But I don't feel like I'm on the hamster wheel. But then there's seasons where I almost like am also have a full schedule, but I mentally am on the hamster wheel and feel like I can't get off. And that's usually when I burn out, when I'm like, I have to keep going. I have to keep doing another thing. I have to keep working late at night. Like, I just feel like I cannot get off of this wheel. And that usually is like a much more like mental thing than it even is like a time thing that I think, at least for me, is when I've noticed burnout. And usually that, kind of going back to Sabbath, comes from lies of like, I have to keep working, I have to keep doing this, my values in this, my identity is in it, this, how people are viewing me is in how much I'm going to be producing or doing or how well I'm doing it, and can just get like stuck on this wheel. And so definitely Sabbath and taking time to rest has always been so grounding and resetting. And even last year, I went on a mission trip for 2 weeks, and I definitely was on the hamster wheel right before that trip. And the thought of being gone for 2 weeks, completely disconnected from work, was so anxiety provoking, where I was like, it's not going to go on without me. Everything's going to fall apart. This whole thing, like putting myself way higher than I actually was meant to be in the role. And then actually stepping away from 2 weeks and realizing that not everything, the world did not crash and burn without me. It was very humbling, and I think helped me just like reset and remind myself that I can rest and I don't need to be on this hamster wheel. And there's a way to work and work well without putting that like pressure on myself to like keep going and never stopping.
And if you're building business structures where something rides and dies on you that dependently, it's actually probably a really good time to assess your business and change your structures.
Yep. And that's something we've also had to learn the hard way as
we
well.
need help. We
building
need
everything
teams
around us and ourselves.
Yeah. And that's totally how we burnt out right away.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when we had our shop 20s, we literally built everything on us. And it was a pressure we weren't able to handle.
Yeah.
Some people can push through that. And honestly, respect, well, I don't even know. Honestly, I think it was out of the Lord's kindness that, like, we didn't have the strength to, like, carry it all.
I would agree.
Because it taught us a good lesson right away in our 20s so that we could try to not repeat that. So that's really good wisdom, Meg.
Yeah.
I love that. I know that feeling where it's like, literally,
you're like,
you can't stop.
Yeah.
Ew, it
is not a good feeling at all.
It's a bad one.
Should we go into practical tips?
Yeah, let's go into practical tips. Okay, so to end this, we're gonna go into practical girl boss tips. We're gonna it's not bad to be a girl boss, guys. We're all girl bosses. I really believe every girl who's getting up every day and who's just doing life and trying to take care of what God's given you, you are a girl boss, okay? Like, that is ultimate girl boss. It's just an obedient queen.
Yes, amen to that.
And so with that, let's go through a few practical tips. Number 1, I kind of talked about it, time blocking. Yes, so time blocking is basically prioritizing the things that are most important in life. So time blocking doesn't necessarily mean your productive work time. For you, that might mean your productive rest time, where you're specifically spending nights of the week resting, doing things that are restful, like whatever that looks like for you, whether that's self-care or being with people or going to the gym or just making really nourishing food. I don't know what that looks like for you, but time blocking that's a practical girl boss tip.
Yeah, I feel like time blocking is huge because it actually allows you to see what your capacity is and make decisions about what you can say yes or no to and know what margin you actually have. Because if you don't have a schedule and you don't have everything written down, that's when everything gets like so chaotic.
And I think that goes into another practical girl boss tip is, like you can't say yes to everything. We have human capacity, and I think it's really feminine to know your capacity and be able to say, hey, I can't. Like, how about let's circle back to that? Or flat out, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Like, that's a girl boss tip right there.
And you have to just learn how to be okay with it because FOMO is hard, and that's usually what makes you say yes. Yeah. But you just have to like be so firm and grounded in your why and knowing what you're doing and what your capacity is and why you need to rest and why you need to prioritize that so that you can say no and not live in this like, oh gosh, I need to be everywhere all the time.
That's a good sign.
Something's off. Yeah.
Which, it's always, it's good. When you start to not breathe, maybe check in on yourself, queen. Okay, next girl boss tip, embrace seasons. Yeah. So I think Meg said it really well before. There's a season for everything. Sometimes, we're called to work really hard and kind of do a sprint. But if we're not able to stop sprinting and get off that hamster wheel, like seasons are supposed to end. Not everything is supposed to be one way forever. And so it's just like the seasons outside. Winter, it represents resting and represents going inward and taking care of ourselves in our home. Spring means new life. Our energies pick up. It gets a little warmer outside. We're able to kind of ease into what is summer, which is like we are working and we're full outside and we're like sowing into like what is fall, which is like harvest and delight. And I think our actual seasons represent even how we can be embracing our work seasons and our girl bossing. There's a season for everything. Nothing is supposed to last forever, and every season has a purpose. So lean into the power of that. Yeah. And our cycles have seasons. Our menstrual phase is like winter.
It's also like a season.
And our luteal phase is like fall. And our ovulation phase is like summer. And our follicular phase is like spring. Guys, God is in the details. There's honestly,
That's actually crazy.
Yeah. So anyways, lean into that.
Something that we can really struggle with is sometimes I think we keep ourselves super, super busy and always have a podcast on, always have noise on because we're afraid to sit with ourselves and sit with our own thoughts. And it's an easy way to just avoid things in our life. And so I think actually just having set aside time to rest, whatever that looks like for you, and practice being in silence as well is so helpful because it actually gives you space to think and turn your brain off and check in with yourself and figure out how you're actually doing. And so you have to get comfortable with the silence and with yourself and with the reality of like where you're at in life.
Yeah,
so
that's really good.
But it's not fun, and it's not like always the easiest thing, especially if you're like a people person and you don't like that. But I think even little amounts of time of that during the week can be so important
even a few
and powerful.
Minutes. I feel like when I'm just like walking, when I'm transitioning is a great time that I process.
Yeah. Whether that's walking or in the car to things.
Use those times to like be still.
Yeah.
Turn off your car music. Honestly, if you're driving a lot, just like try to not listen to stuff all the time. It's really helpful.
Yeah.
Go on walks. Walks are always helpful.
Yeah.
So, a practical girl boss tip is just to be present where you are, see the people around you. Something we try to do is like in the midst of our busy days, like I try to have time to see people, which that can be really challenging sometimes. Sometimes it's really easy. And, you know, when I see someone, like getting to talk with them, connect with them. But sometimes I'll be honest, it's really hard when I'm like on my productivity hamster wheel and someone, like I ran into someone and I'm happy to see them, but I'm like so like deep in work that I don't want to see them. And I know for myself, and this doesn't have to be for everybody, but if I'm out and about and I run into someone, I like want to make time to connect with them and just be present in that moment. And like recognizing that's probably the most productive thing I can do is to connect with people.
Yeah.
And so at times it can feel really bad because I'm like, I have so much to do. But if I really have so much to do, I should sit my butt in a place where no one can distract me and get it done. And so
that's true. Yeah, that's really good though. Because I think we can just lose sight of people and the humanity of life when we're head down grinding sometimes. So
guys, if it's I love the trend that's going around where it's like, I forgot that this was the whole point, where they'll have these like simple, tiny little moments in life. And it was like, I forgot that this is the entire point. And it's oftentimes it's these little moments. It's not how much we move the needle that day. At least for me, that's just not how I find fulfillment, which is funny because the guys in my life, oftentimes how they gauge their day is how much they produce.
Yes.
Which isn't, I think that's actually more of a masculine thing, but I think as a girl boss, you'll probably feel most fulfilled if you just are very present in where you're at, and that's probably going to gauge how fulfilled you're feeling from your day.
Yeah, for sure. Another little practical tip I have, this might not apply to everybody, but as a girl who has struggled with sleep, something that I try to like tell myself every single night before I go to bed, which again is similar to the Sabbath, is just reminding myself of how human I am, of like, okay, God, my sleep tonight is an act of worship and an act of surrender because I'm human and I need to let the day go. I need to let the to-do list go. I need to let all the thoughts that are just spiraling through my head go and surrender them to you because I need to sleep. That's how you've created me, but you are God and you're still holding everything together and you're not sleeping and you're working, and I get to just trust you with that. And so I almost have felt like for me, sleep has become in a way a Sabbath where I have to just like remind myself of that every day, which then is very grounding during the day and helping protect myself from that hamster wheel.
That's good.
And so even just those like simple little truths to remind yourself of every single night before you go to bed, or if you struggle letting the day go, can be really helpful.
That's good. I'm going to piggyback off of it because I think some girl bosses need to take naps.
Yeah.
Some women, honestly me, I have not been napping at all recently. because I've been busy. So this is really just me preaching at myself, ladies. But the power of 30 minutes to close my eyes and turn off my brain, I come back so rejuvenated. And I know all too many women who would thrive off a 30-minute power nap in the middle of the day. Some women, not so much. So yeah, that's the power of the 30-minute nap. And honestly, I want to try to take one 30-minute nap a week, because there's always one day that I could really use it each week where I'm like, I need to take a nap.
And you're probably going to be more productive if you just take the 30-minute nap instead of...
And I'm a thinker. God created me very creatively. I like think constantly. Like it's like I'm always thinking of ideas and things, and like beep bop bop bop. I'm thinking about everybody all the time. And so if I could just close that little mind for 30 minutes, I wake up like a little ball of sunshine.
Yes, true.
But
That's
any
good.
last girl boss tips?
I don't think so. I think that's all I got for now.
If you're into it, wear more dresses. You know, that's not feminine for everybody. Some people really hate that. I'm not telling you to do it. But guys, it's a summer of dresses. I just feel it.
We've said this for 3 summers.
And it keeps building every year, because every year I add a few more dresses to my collection.
It gets easier and easier.
And guys,
Who wants to be wearing pants?
you can do a lot in dress. Like, I feel kind of unstoppable some days when I have a dress on. It's just like I feel so free and comfortable.
That's
I
true.
don't feel restricted by jeans.
Yeah.
I feel like I could flow.
You're basically naked.
And it's the best feeling ever. Here's today's 20 shout out to one of our favorite girl bosses.
My mom, Wendy Kronzer. She's the biggest fan, you guys. She's so precious. Every single week, she comments at like 5:30 in the morning on Wednesdays, because she'll listen
Try to beat Wendy to the comments,
guys, I bet you
reviews.
can't. And so she's so sweet about that. And she honestly is our quality control, because she'll
real,
let me know right away if something didn't upload or something's wrong. And so we appreciate her in that, because
We need you,
she
Wendy.
gets up earlier than we do. And sometimes we're still learning how to do this whole podcast thing. So she helps us out. So I want to give this shout out to my mom.
Wendy, we couldn't do this without you.
No.
And that's our episode on girl bossing. All right, girl bosses.
We love you.
We love you. God bless you.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.